You're listening to Heart of the Dragon by Lulu M. Sylvian.
Chapter 1. Kara. It felt very voyeuristic, watching the man on stage practically make love to the woman. His dark hair hung down, hiding most of his face. All of his attention was on her. His gaze intently locked on her face, which she was covering with her hands. He had her on her back, holding her legs around his waist as he did horizontal body rolls over her. The motions were suggestive and designed to make everyone watching think of one thing. It looked like sex. It felt like sex. Only his body wasn't touching hers. He gleamed with sweat from the intensity of his motions and the rising heat of the club. The muscles in his arms bunched and showed off that he clearly worked hard on his physique. His abs were fingernail file sharp, and his jeans looked painted on. He moved as if his body created the music that pulsed and throbbed. Their bodies glowed with neon blue and vibrant magenta stage lights. Actions that were best left in private shadows were accented with the flicker of sparkles from a disco globe. They were the ones doing the act, but I was the one with sweat beading on my upper lip, and my heart racing. He spun and somehow she was flipped. Her hand slapped against the stage, and she gasped with wide eyes before she started laughing. Okay, so she was having fun. The dancer started some grinding moves over her ass. It was very clear to me, and frankly everyone else watching the show, that if he had a woman in a bed, he would know exactly what to do to reduce her to quivering flesh and moaning desire. He wouldn't trip and fall face first into the mattress while trying to take off his socks, or get his legs tangled between his shorts and jeans. This guy moved like a predator, and made it look like he would pick up and slam his lover against the wall. Up there, on stage, he presented perfection and ideals. He was a dream lover come to life, with exceptional 4/4 timing and a sense of rhythm. His sweat probably smelled like sandalwood and pine. The woman on stage pushed her hips up and back like a cat in heat. Her body sought the touch of the man, who tossed her around as if she was nothing more than a limp rag doll. He was that powerful, she was that languid. He continued to graze close enough to her body that she had to feel the heat from his body. But he never quite seemed to touch her with anything other than his hands, or a press of his knee to reposition her. His hips moved as if he was grinding hard, but that part of his anatomy never made contact with her. She writhed and her expression shifted with every second. She was laughing, she was moaning, she was desperate. When she reached and tried to shift her position so she could touch, he would artfully pin her down in such a way that was a combination of professional skill and sexual tension. His moves were low and slow and fit the pounding thrum of the music. Sweat trickled between my breasts and dripped down my brow. Either I was extremely hot and bothered, or the temperature in the club was cranking up. I tried to swallow, as I watched the power and virility of the dancer maneuver and shift and roll. I grabbed my drink and gulped down the cold margarita. My body was on fire. Shit. I slapped my fingers to my throat. Yep, the pulse was up. I let out a deep, slow breath. I was fine. I was fine. I was having fun. The music made me want to dance. That man made me want to bump and grind. I want to buy stage seats. They are still selling tickets at the bar, Kelly yelled in my direction. No way. You do that, don't involve me, I yelled back. That little trick he did with the leg twist and flip wouldn't work with me. I wasn't small enough to toss around. Kelly would have no problems. She was lithe and fit, and weighed a good 70 pounds less than me, if not more. I was easily embarrassed. Part of me was suffering some serious, second-hand embarrassment right now for that woman on stage. But only because I was thinking, what if that was me? I'd look like a lump up there. He would have to strain to move me as my flesh liquefied, and I became the human equivalent of goop. And why were those thoughts in my head? I was having fun. Self-defeatist intrusive thoughts were not welcome. Oh right, Kelly wanted to subject herself to that treatment, and for $50 she could. For $50, I would be buying a dose of shame and mortification. I knew nothing like that was going to happen to me, but another wave of being embarrassed washed over me. What was I embarrassed for? It wasn't as if any of the men on stage would look up and see me. The floor dancers didn't need to pretend they didn't see me waving tip money around for a lap dance, because I wasn't. I took another fortifying swig of my drink and watched the man on stage. When did the woman change? Probably while I was trying to cool my hot flash with booze. A different woman sat on a chair. She looked up at him adoringly. I understood that mood big time. He had my attention, and there were 3 other guys on stage doing the same thing. But did I notice them? No. He spun and danced around behind her, lifting one of her arms and then the other. His hands slid down the length of her arms, and then it was hard to grasp exactly what he did, but suddenly it looked like he was groping her boobs. I blinked a few times before I realized his hands were on the backs of hers, and she was the one palming herself. Clever move, dancer boy. He moved her hands around and lowered until he was no longer visible behind her. From the back, reaching around, he spread her thighs, and then with a crescendo of sound and swooping twirl on his knees, he rotated like a tornado from behind the chair to being in front of her, his back and ass toward the audience. Holy hell, my soul left my body as he dipped and made it look like he was the king of cunnilingus. The woman shrieked with laughter and ruffled her fingers into his hair. I wanted to be where she was. I didn't want to be her. Not on stage and under the lights with a club full of horny women ogling the action on stage. Realistically, I knew none of us were looking at her. We were watching him and wanting to be her. For $50, that could be me. Kelly put her hand on my arm and started to drag me away from our seats. That's it. I'm buying a lap dance. You're getting one too. Dear Lord, did you see that guy's thighs? He's a giant redwood and I have some old growth forest that needs climbing. I think you've got that backward, I said helplessly as I stumbled along in her wake. Whatever. He's got wood and I want it. She turned from talking to the bartender and pulled my arm until I was sprawled across the bar, and then the bartender slapped a red Tvec wristband on me before placing a red ticket into my hand. That will get you on stage. He pointed at a group of women who looked like they were having a great time. They were dancing and laughing. Over there with them. The stage manager will tell you when to go on stage. Kelly dragged me along. My feet dragged, reluctant to go, but helpless by the pull of both my friend and the godlike man on the stage. I wrapped my fingers around the large amulet at my neck and tried to anchor myself back to reality. I needed to get a grip. There was no magical connection between us, because we were in the same room. I was being hormonal. All the moaning little chemical whores making me orange. A chance eye contact did not seal anyone's fate, let alone mine. He was hot, that's all it was. I held my little red ticket out like I wasn't exactly certain it was real. What was I getting myself into? Oh crap, the stage manager positioned Kelly on the stage. She wiggled and bounced and danced in place until one of the dancers undulated in our direction. He snaked around her and pulled her farther onto the stage. She whooped and danced and looked more excited than a kid in a candy shop. The ticket, which I still pinched between thumb and pointer finger like a burning match, was plucked from my fingers. You're next. I didn't move. You need to step up to the X marked on the floor. You see it? I stared at him and nodded. I heard the words. I even comprehend them. What was I doing here? With a step forward, my feet hit the dance floor. Sound reverberated up through my shoes. The backs of my legs started to sweat. How light were my jeans? Was I wearing the medium blue wash or the darker color? I learned to stop wearing khakis because sweat made them look darker, and it looked like I peed or something. If I was in the wrong color of denim, I'd have the same problem. Why hadn't I worn black yoga pants or a skirt? Stupid nervous response, why couldn't I sweat from my palms like the rest of the world? Speaking of sweat, the dancer, the one with the dark hair and predatory glower glistening with sweat, shimmied and rolled toward me. His body moved in ways that I could only imagine. He was a good actor, because when I looked at his face, he was checking me out and licking his lips. I had better remember to tip him well, 'cause he was already working hard for his money. No one ever looked at my body and chewed on their lower lip like that. Our eyes met. Time shifted and stopped. His eyes were full of flames. Probably a reflection of the stage lights. They were beautiful, all of him was. I found it hard to breathe. The back of my throat was full of my tongue. I managed to clamp a hand over my mouth as a dry heave threatened. No, 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 no. The undulation I did on stage was neither sexy nor particularly graceful. I turned on my heels and ran. Stairs, door outside, and cool air. I was grateful for two things at the moment, dry heaves and that I hadn't hurled on stage. I leaned my back against the bricks of the alley. After my breathing settled, I lowered to sit on the backs of my heels. I buried my face in my hands. That had been so embarrassing. All I could think about was what if that man, who I didn't know and would never see again, thought I had peed my pants because I had sweaty legs. Why did it matter? Why did I do this to myself? Kelly was probably still having a blast with another hot dancer pretending to get all sexy with her. Kara? Oh my God, there you are. Are you okay? You didn't puke, did you? I wouldn't have bought you the lap dance if I thought you were going to puke. Kelly bombarded me with a torrent of questions. Have some water, she handed me a bottle. I took a sip. I didn't puke. Just a very well-timed panic attack. Did I completely miss the show? I managed to push up to my feet. Kelly hooked her finger under her red band. We still have the meet and greet. Come on. I moaned and thought about complaining. But I didn't. No one but me would notice the panic attack. No one but me was thinking about it. That little meet and greet costs money, Kelly quipped. What the hell was she being pissy about? She had paid for a lap dance that hadn't happened. How was your lap dance? I asked. Oh my God, it was so hot. I got his sweat on me. I think I'm pregnant. That's not how it works, I laughed. Ovaries were popping like popcorn out there, I tell you. I'm so fertile right now, the next man who waves his crotch at me had better be prepared to pay child support. Come on, let's get back. The dancers will be out for the photo op soon. I don't want to miss it. I didn't know if I wanted to miss it or not. It would be awkward talking to the men. Yeah, none of them would believe me if I complimented them on their dancing. And it would be really weird saying, "Hi, I like your pecs."
Truck. Joe's hand in the center of my chest kept me on the stage when all I wanted was to run after her. Chasing her down might scare her further, but I fought before realizing that. With a shove, I pushed back against him before returning to the stage. I didn't dance. I prowled and glared and snarled. I was angry. I felt caged. The last number went off with a bang. It always did. We had modified glitter cannons that shot big chunks of confetti into the air. That's when I was allowed off stage. I didn't have time to shower. I didn't need to do a pit check to know I stank. My gear stank, my sweat reeked. I had to seduce that woman while I was dripping with sweat and stench. Unlike some of the other guys, I didn't drench myself in body spray after the show. I took the baby wipes and clean clothes route. My hair was still damp, but there was nothing more I could do than pull it back into a ponytail. I still smelled, now with the additional hint of baby powder. It was the best I could do. I had 10 minutes to change and get out there to meet the gaggle of fans who paid for a photo op. Maybe she would be out there. She didn't act like a fan. She acted like a terrified gazelle cast into a den of lions. Raw.
Chapter 2. Kara. The meet and greet was nothing I expected. Somewhere between a feeding frenzy and barricaded screaming fans. A group of men dressed for the season in their sexy Santa and naughty elf routine costumes posed for a photographer, and a line of women waited to be the next one, surrounded by all that sweaty skin. Around the edges of the stage, a few of the men, now fully dressed, were signing autographs on t-shirts and skin. "Hey, let's get our picture taken." Kelly grabbed my arm and we joined the line. My guy, the long-haired god I had run away from, was nowhere to be seen. I let out a sigh of relief. This way, I didn't have to be disappointed that he didn't recognize me, or be embarrassed in any way. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do much more than stand in the line and get my picture taken. Suddenly Kelly squealed. Her arms went up and she danced in place. "Wifey." A muscle-bound dancer held his arms out to her, and she launched herself at him. Her legs wrapped around his hips, and she began peppering his face with kisses. It appeared that I had missed something during her lap dance. "You ready?" The same guy who had told me to stand on the X was running the photo line. I handed over my phone, already set to take pictures. It was my turn to sit on sexy Santa's lap and have my picture taken. I must have hesitated, because Santa pulled me down onto his legs. I giggled nervously. We all smiled for the photographer, and then I had my phone back. I was excused, and it was the next woman's turn. That had been painless. Now what? Kelly was necking with that dancer, and I was alone, surrounded by hot men and laughing women. "There you are. Are you feeling any better?" I turned at the sound of a deep voice. I was met with eyes full of fire. My head swam. The next thing I was aware of was sitting in a chair, the beautiful man with the burning eyes kneeling in front of me. He had a hand on my leg, and the other one was helping me to hold a glass of water. Kelly and the hunks stood slightly behind him, watching me. "You're okay. I've got you," he said. I blinked. His eyes weren't on fire anymore, they were a perfectly clear, unearthly blue. He had dark brows, pulled together in worry. Was that because of me? "I was hoping you'd be here. I wanted to make sure you were okay." His gaze was intense. "She had a panic attack," Kelly said. "You wanted to make sure I was okay?" I tried to focus on the glass of water, but I was touching his hand as he helped. His words confused me. Why would he care? I was just another woman delusional enough to think the dancers on stage would notice and remember me. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Her name is Kara." "Oh hi, I'm Kelly. She's with me." "Kara Mia, let me help you outside for some fresh air." Kelly's hand landed on his shoulder. "Hold on there, buddy, you don't get to walk off with my bestie." The man who was entwined with Kelly started to unwrap himself from her embrace. "Babe, she's a big girl, she's got this." I couldn't tell if the big girl comment was regarding my ass, or if I was adult enough to handle myself. "I will not harm your friend." All of this talking was going on over my head, as if I wasn't the one sitting there with the dizzy brain. "Do I get a say in any of this?" I asked. Suddenly I was the center of attention, not just the topic of conversation. Kelly and the hot guy stared at me intently. "I'm not going to be sick, and I'm fine. I got overheated." "Sure you did." Kelly smirked and then gave me a wink. Fine, she was on board with some agenda I wasn't clued in on, but at least she backed down. I made eye contact with the man in front of me. He was swoon-worthy gorgeous, I should know. I had most definitely swooned. I think some fresh air would be a good idea. And maybe something to eat. I might have overdone it on the margaritas. He stood. I watched as he went up and up. His broad chest passed my vision, and then his belt, and then I was left staring at the bulge in his jeans. I was not going to lick my lips or drool. I just wasn't. After all, the show was over. His goodies were no longer on display for ogling by the general public. He held his hand out to me, and I slid my hand into his. His palm was warm, his grip firm. He did not take a step back, as he helped me to my feet. My body parts crashed into him. The smile on his lips made me think he had done that on purpose. I was about to apologize for putting myself on him, when he tugged my arm in, and my breasts pressed very intently against him. I best keep you close in case you begin to feel lightheaded again. You stick to my side, okay? It wasn't his side I wanted to stick to. I was on the verge of crashing into embarrassment, but something held me in check. What was there to be embarrassed about? He was the one that pulled me against his body. It was his fault he didn't get out of the way. And I don't give a fuck how poor someone's spatial relationship gauge is. There wasn't room for me to be on my feet and not have our bodies touch. He was doing this on purpose, and he wasn't teasing me or mocking me about it. So maybe, just maybe. I let out a nervous giggle and tried to step back, only to knock into the chair I had just gotten out of. I stumbled, and Hottie's arms were around me. You're a hazard to yourself. Come on, let's get you some fresh air and food. The club on the roof has a patio. I let him lead me away. How bad could it be? We were staying in the same building. There's another club? I asked. I couldn't tell if the muzzy feeling in my head was a result of the drinking finally hitting my circulatory system, or if this man just made me light-headed. Leaning against his arm, he guided me through doors and into lobbies. The elevator doors slid shut, and he turned me in his arms. The backs of his knuckles stroked down the side of my face. This couldn't be real. This had to be a drunken delusion, only I really hadn't had that much to drink. I was so worried about you when you ran from me. Suddenly, he had an accent. I had noticed it fading in and out as he spoke earlier. It was sexy, so I didn't mind. Why are you frightened of me? Frightened? I was terrified. The man was sex on legs, and he was caressing my skin. Those knuckles continued down my throat and were dragging their way toward my cleavage. I don't know you. I don't even know your name. Of course you know me. You know me here. He placed his open hand on my chest over my heart. My heart seemed to like his touch because it felt as if it was beating harder to get to him by breaking out of my rib cage. I couldn't breathe. He was so close, I could see the individual whiskers of his stubble. His breath steamed against my mouth. I tipped my head back and closed my eyes. The elevator doors pinged and slid open to the cheer of partiers on the other side. A cool breeze replaced his warm breath. My eyes popped open, no impending kiss for me. I grimaced at the group as they swarmed onto the elevator before letting us off. They wore Santa hats and ugly Christmas sweaters, completely decked out for the upcoming holiday. It was like swimming upstream to fight our way out of the elevator. This man who I didn't know seemed very invested in my well-being, and I was inclined to let him. He didn't let go of me, not even after we were seated. Instead, that seemed to give him permission to be even closer. He treated me like I was a dear and precious lover. I knew what I looked like, and men built like him very rarely paid attention to women shaped like me. I ate up every bit of attention he was serving, as if I was desperate. Maybe I was. Maybe I didn't care. He sat so close, with his thighs on either side of mine. He leaned into me, protecting me. He ordered something, I don't know what. I was too wrapped up in his eyes, and the heightened coloring on his cheekbones. You are being awfully nice, I managed to say. He messed with my heart rate and ability to catch my breath. That's because I want to be very bad with you. That accent was dancing around his tongue again. The waiter put something on the table next to us. He sat back, creating space between us momentarily as he picked up something round and held it to my lips. I took a bite. I was so completely mesmerized by the flickering of light in his eyes that I ate from his hand. Who was I? This was like some kind of dream. It was a cheese-covered potato skin. I laughed and tried to cover my mouth with my fingers. I'm letting you feed me like I'm helpless, and I still don't even know your name, I complained. You are allowing me to take care of you. Your pulse is still high, your blood sugar is too low. And I suspect you are dehydrated. Sip. He held out a glass of ice water. I drank, and ate another one of the cheese-covered appetizer-sized potato skins. He leaned in too close again. His knuckles traced over the tops of my breasts. His actions were not helping my pulse to settle. I felt, rather than saw him lift the amulet and admire it. This is a beautiful piece. I wrapped my fingers over his hand on my necklace. Where our skin touched, I felt surges of electric power. He let go of the pendant, and twisted his fingers with mine until he was holding my hand. It was the single most sensual hand-holding in the history of hand-holding. My body was fully in lust with this man. I kept trying to think logically. How the hell did this gorgeous man, who could quite literally have any woman, hell anyone he wanted, want me to believe I was his choice? I tried to ease away from him. I managed to only create a small gap between us. Drak, my name is Drak. I felt a layer of tension melt away from my shoulders like snow on a hot day. Your pulse has slowed. Is that all you needed was my name? I did not mean to cause you stress by withholding it. So why didn't you tell me earlier? He lifted one shoulder in a small shrug. We do not need names to know what we feel, Kara. My pulse might have evened out, but the riot of nerves in my core had not settled down. My panties were too tight, too damp, and too easily taken off if I didn't slap some sense back into my libido-blinded brain. I picked up another potato skin and bit into it. Drak, damn, his name was as fierce and sexy as he was, pursed his lips and closed his eyes as if he were imagining me biting into him. I laughed nervously, it was too surreal. All of it. The sexy man, the deep-fried bar food, my insecurities and his blatant obvious attraction to me. Drak? I tried to swallow the K into the back of my throat to match his accent. Drak? I said a second time for practice. You say my name well, Kara Mia. And you say mine as if. I say your name as if it belongs on my tongue. The way you belong. I imagine that when I say your name, I can taste your skin. The very essence of you teases me through your name. He closed his eyes and licked the tips of my fingers, one at a time. I lost all ability to think. The tip of his tongue teased down my finger, and flicked at the webbing between my index and middle fingers. He sucked both into his mouth. Drak, we're in public. He looked up at me through his dark brow, and gave me an evil sexual grin. Did you enjoy that, Kara Mia? I gulped. Would you like to do that to me? I think I managed to nod. With a chuckle, he put his pointer finger against my lower lip. My tongue darted out, and I licked the tip of his finger before I lost all nerve and pulled away, biting my lower lip. I hadn't been thinking about his fingers when I confessed to wanting to lick him like a lollipop. He groaned, and I felt the pull of his sound between my legs. Men didn't pick me up in clubs like this. This strong mutual attraction between us was new to me. I was the friend that got ignored when I went out with the girls. I always told myself I was an acquired taste. That I wasn't the instant gratification type. I was a gourmet buffet that required time to appreciate fully. I was out of my depth on so many levels. But I was ready to cliff dive into what this man was offering. Only, I wasn't exactly sure how to do that. Are you going to allow me the privilege of seducing you? His voice purred over the words. He was good, really good. Do I have a choice? Kara Mia, you always have a choice. But I saw your face, your eyes during the show. You want to be seduced. You want to know what it is like to feel a man possess you the way I claim my victims on stage. Your desires are raw and very readable. I gulped. And you are scared. Do not be scared of me. I have no intention of hurting you. That sounds like you are going to hurt me anyway. He took my hand and pressed my palm to his chest. I have no intention of hurting you, ever. You are not a woman to be toyed with. I could hear the butt winding up behind his words. He was going to seduce me, and there would be some reason he couldn't go through with it. He didn't want to hurt me, but I was going to leave this night with a broken heart and some licked fingers, and that's it. There you are. Kelly's voice cut through the negative voice in my head, doing the mean things to my self-esteem again. We need to go. Drock was still wrapped around me, touching me. He didn't jump away. My heart went pitter-patter over him yet again. What happened to your hardwood forest? That dick with legs said something about my brother. I'm out. We need to go. I have to go, I said. Drock still had my hand. I don't understand. What does her brother have to do with anything? Kelly is very fierce about protecting the people she loves. He probably said something super douchey and insulting. Oh, for heaven's sake, give him your number. If he's real, he'll call you in the morning. She is right. You need to go, support your friend. Drock held out his hand with his phone in it. I took the phone and entered my number. I will call you, Drock promised. He let me leave without even a kiss. I was beginning to think I had been suckered by a very smooth con man. Chapter 3. Kara. As soon as we got into the elevator, my phone pinged. It was Drock. I was already smiling like an idiot, but I must have smiled harder or made some noise or something because Kelly groaned and snatched my phone from me. It doesn't count until tomorrow. She pressed and held the button, turning my phone off. Hey, I grabbed my phone back. If you respond now, he'll know you're desperate and that he won. Won what? She shook her head and rolled her eyes. Damn it. Her night hadn't gone the way she wanted. I reached out and pulled her into a hug. I'm sorry you didn't get your wood, I said. It was homophobic wood. I didn't want it anyway. You want to go get waffles? Waffles, ice cream, you name it.
Drock. My family's amulet looked beautiful against the creamy breasts of Kara. It was going to be my pleasure to seduce the peace away from her. Watching her walk away had been both a pleasure and a stab in my chest. That amulet, the heart of my family's power, had gone missing centuries ago. But a piece like that was never forgotten. Every filigree swirl, and the way light refracted and flew around inside the large ruby was seared into my memory. I wasn't sure which I wanted to wrap my fingers around more, the amulet, or the woman who brought it back into my life.
Kara. I didn't turn my phone on until the next morning. Of course, pigging out on deep-fried everything they had on the menu helped to put me into a carb-induced coma. By the time I got home, I was doing well to remember to take my shoes off before climbing into bed and passing out face first. Demanding paws on my head woke me up. I rolled over, pushed Medusa off my face, and grabbed my phone before I was willing to do anything else for the day. Kelly said it didn't count unless he waited to call or text me in the morning. Well, it was morning, I couldn't wait. I mean, I should have waited, should have braced for disappointment. But no, I plowed ahead regardless of my potential disappointment. My phone powered on, and I had 3 messages. All from Drock. I kicked blankets into the air and squealed with joy. Instead of reading the messages, I dropped my phone and rushed to the bathroom to see how I looked. What was wrong with me? I wasn't going to FaceTime him. I didn't need to put on, oh God. I hadn't washed before face planting into my pillow. It didn't matter that I didn't need to look good to respond to him. I needed to wash my face or I was going to break out. I already had a zit forming on the side of my chin. Oh crap. And another one above my eyebrow. I didn't return to my bedroom and my phone until I scrubbed my skin raw and moisturized properly. I looked like an 18th century French tart with my new heart-shaped zit patches. Maybe I should get a big beehive wig. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Yowling from the other side of the bathroom door let me know that the cats hadn't been fed in at least a week, and I was neglectful, and allowed them to starve. I scooped up Percy, Medusa already running toward the food bowl, evading me. Poor starving kitty, no one loves you. I scratched his head before I set him on the floor. They both trolled back and forth in front of the refrigerator, waiting for their food. Out of the way, I said as I waded through them. I pulled out the can of soft food, their morning meal, and scooped it into a bowl. Medusa stretched up until her paws touched the edge of the counter. They were good, in that they didn't jump onto the counter when I could see them. I had no doubt they climbed up when I wasn't there to correct them. But when I was home, they stayed off the counters and the tables. With the beasts fed, I returned to the bedroom to text Drock back. For some reason, I needed to feel put together before I could face responding to Drock. While I didn't do my makeup, I did put on my bra and get dressed. My pulse fluttered in my neck as I picked up the phone. Yes, he had texted. And the last one was from this morning. I enjoyed watching you walk away, but I hated that you left. Wow, text one was raising my body temperature. The words were like a cheesy pickup line, but I imagined them in that accent he kept trying to hide, and it made my skin tingle. Has your friend prevented you from replying? You should know, I don't play games. I said I wanted to see you again, and I mean that. My throat went dry. Oh yeah. That's why I put clothes on, because I was in danger of doing some interesting things with my fingers, and imagining Drock was the one touching me while I read his words. I was fully desperate for this man. Good morning, Kara. It was a long night thinking about you. Did you dream of me? I let out a shaky breath. Damn, he was good with words. Shit. I didn't think I had dreamed of him. Was that some kind of betrayal? Especially since I was thinking about pulling out my vibrator and naming it Drock. I fell back against my pillows and typed a response. Kelly made me turn off my phone. Didn't want you to think I was desperate. I chewed on my lip as I waited for a reply. He could have been taking a shower, or working out. Yeah, with that body he worked out a lot. I let my eyes go hazy and out of focus as I pictured his muscles bunching and sweat beading on his skin as he worked out. Yeah, that was a nice picture in my mind. His thick chest muscles and shoulders bulged and roped with power. I would never think a woman like you would be desperate. It is I who is desperate to be in your company once more. I was going to swoon and die of happiness. I don't work today. Lunch? I couldn't believe I was asking him to lunch. But I wanted to see him again too. Lunch? I will count the minutes. His text felt unreal. Like pieces of poetry, and not a conversation. I was feeling all up in my ego when I suggested the sushi place over by the college. Sushi? Me? That was something I only wanted when I was feeling like being fancy. I guess Drock made me feel fancy. He certainly made me feel something. I shall distract myself, so the hours move along swiftly. Until then, cara mia. Until then. I wasn't nearly as eloquent. As soon as I hit send, I opened the ongoing chat window I had with Kelly. I'm meeting him for sushi at lunch. 5 exclamation points, and I meant every one of them. Chapter 4.
Drock. Sushi. She wanted sushi. Sushi was a snack, then again so was Kara. Maybe a light lunch was the best course of action. After all, I had plans, I had a seduction to complete. The restaurant was located in the middle of a block. Parking was what I could find. I slid my Jaguar coupe into a spot around the nearest corner, and considered myself lucky to have found good parking off the main road, but nearby. As the original owner of the car, now considered a vintage classic, I did tend to baby it. I would have driven several extra blocks out of the way for decent parking if necessary. I saw her as I strode toward the restaurant. She looked around. I hoped it was for me. She seemed to dance in place. Was she nervous? The rabbit willingly asked the wolf to lunch, and she was still nervous. Maybe she knew my plans for her. Did I want to get my hands on my amulet? Yes, I did. But I wanted to get my hands on her body even more. Unfortunately, her delightful curves were hidden from my view by an oversized purple wool coat. She stopped her little dance when she saw me. Her lips spread into a smile. And then she blushed and looked away before looking back at me. I liked that even though I obviously made her nervous, she was here. She had been the one to suggest it. Kara MIA. I opened my arms to her and pulled her into my embrace. She shivered but returned the hug. Are you cold? I have not kept you waiting, have I? I hadn't meant to bombard her with questions, but I was suddenly full of concern for her well-being. It's a little chilly out. I was beginning to think you weren't coming, she said meekly. Shall we go in, get you out of the cold? I opened the door, allowing her to step in first. We were greeted by a loud cacophony of yelling in Japanese. The place was warm and smelled of ginger and soy sauce. I offered to take her coat, before shrugging out of my own. We were seated, almost immediately. I really love to get bento boxes here, Kara confessed. I thought you liked sushi. I do, but I can't make a meal of it without spending $100. She smiled nervously. That's not going to be an issue with you, is it? What, you eating food? It's why we are here. What kind of question is that? She bit her lower lip and shook her head. She didn't want to answer. Not a problem, she was still here, as sexy as I recalled, if not more so. We ordered bento boxes, and then a variety of sushi rolls to sample. The food was good, the conversation better. I answered every question she asked of me. But I didn't want to talk about myself. I wanted to know all about her. I'm boring, she said. I doubt that very much. I think you would be fascinating, even if all you did was lounge on your couch drinking wine and reading books. Have you been spying on me? I crash out and drink wine while I read. I also eat popcorn. While reading and drinking wine? She nodded. What kinds of books do you like to read? She shook her head this time. No, you'll think I'm silly. I already fit into some single woman stereotype, she practically giggled. That means you either read true crime or romance. How many cats do you have? Hey. Not fair. So I'm kind of basic. You don't have to rub it in. I lifted my brows. I found her endlessly entertaining. Women who read are smart. Women who like true crime are smart and can solve issues that arise. They are keyed into watching out for those problems before they become problems. And romance? Romance, I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. Women who read romance novels are open to their own romance. They see good and potential, and they are fantastic lovers. Kara blushed. Well, I read both, what does that make me then? Desirable, smart, you'll see through my bullshit and leave me begging for your caresses. You will be able to dominate any man who is ever so lucky to have your affection and attention. Dominate, huh? She laughed. I doubt that. I'm not particularly aggressive. It's not aggression that puts men at your feet, it's knowing your nature. You are soft without being a pushover. Smart without being condescending to those around you. You like companionship, but survive and know how to thrive without it. You haven't answered my question yet. How many cats do you have? She sat up a little straighter and blinked at me. 2. How? Am I so transparent? I shook my head. No, you have cat hair on your coat. She practically melted to the table, as laughter shook her body. Oh my God, you had me going there. I mean, you're not wrong, but I thought you were somehow reading my thoughts. Cats definitely make sure people know they own you. How about you? Any pets? I shook my head. No, but I like cats. Lunch and conversation lasted until we were practically the only patrons left in the restaurant. I was satisfied, yet not bogged down by a heavy meal. I wasn't ready for our time together to end. Would you care to visit the museum? Kara's face lit up with wide eyes and a bright smile. I would like that very much. Come, I'll drive. I paid for lunch, even though Kara insisted that she do so, since she invited me out to lunch. We agreed that I would let her pay for admission to the museum. I didn't tell her I already had that covered with my membership. I'm parked around the corner, I said as I helped her on with her coat. Holy shit. You drive this? She asked as we stopped next to the Jaguar. I opened the passenger door for her. Yes, I like beautiful things and beautiful women. She made cooing and appreciative noises as she climbed in. The drive to the museum wasn't particularly far. I pulled into the lot and got a parking ticket from the lot attendant. I placed it in my pocket, as I would have it validated once inside. You come here often? She asked as we walked from the parking garage into the main lobby. I do. Its permanent collection has one of my favorite pieces. You like art? Why do you act so surprised? Men have been artists throughout history. Art is a way of marking our time and place in the world. I like looking at beautiful things. Art cars women, she said. I nodded in agreement. So why am I here? I grabbed her wrist and dragged her back against my chest. I caressed the side of her face and slid my hand into her coat, guiding it off her shoulders. Because you outshine it all. I stared deep into her eyes. Even if she hadn't had the amulet around her neck the evening before, I would have wanted to drown in her body. She had that effect on me. I seemed to be having a similar effect on her as well. Her pulse flickered against the skin of her neck. The scent of her arousal tickled my nose. I took her coat and reluctantly let her go. I left her standing there as I checked our coats in, before showing the ticket booth my membership card and having my parking ticket validated. You really do come here a lot, she said. Also, that was a dirty trick, telling me I could pay for the museum entry while you have a membership card. I smiled as she hooked her arm through mine. So your favorite piece of art is in here. Will it give any insights to your personality? Will I look at it and be able to understand you better? Or will you be even more of a mystery?
Chapter 5.
Truck. Come, let me show you. I held out my hand to Kara. Her skin was soft, her hand small and delicate in mine. She trusted me to lead her away. We walked through several galleries until we stopped in front of a particular portrait. I didn't look at the painting. I had seen it before. Many times. I kept my gaze on Kara. Her eyes went wide and her fingers went to her throat. She turned her eyes to me. Her mouth was open, her lips soft as they formed an O. You look just like him. Who is he? She leaned over and read the plaque out loud. Lord Drago il Rosso. She stood and looked at me again. Her head was shaking slightly. Is that Spanish or Italian? He is the Red Dragon. Once a great leader of warriors. Her gaze roamed over the portrait. An ancestor of yours. The resemblance is uncanny. He even has the same. She turned back to me and grabbed my chin, tilting my head to the side. Her finger trailed over the scar on my jaw. Same scar. Same eyes. But this is old. What did you do? How did you get someone to paint a portrait of you over an old portrait and then sneak it into a museum? She took a step back from me. Drak, what's going on? You wanted to see who I really was. There is no trick. What you are witnessing is the selling off of what had once been a vast and mighty fortune. Kara, look at what I'm wearing in the portrait. Red velvet. Is that a doublet? So you're claiming this was painted in the 1600s? Drak. No, Kara, look. I pointed to the ruby amulet around the figure's neck in the portrait. When she had worn the necklace, it had been on a thick gold chain and nestled so beautifully against her breasts. In the portrait it hung much higher on my chest, supported by a collar of square links. The lace of my collar fell over the links. The portrait reminded me of a time when I was too arrogant to understand that all of my power and wealth could be taken from me. "That's my necklace," she gasped. I nodded. Her brow furrowed and she began to sway. "Drak." She collapsed into my arms. I had not anticipated that she would be so overwhelmed by my information that she would swoon. "Oh my gosh, is she okay?" a woman walking into the gallery asked. She was overcome, I admitted. "I'll go get security." I carried Kara to a settee and held her in my arms. Slowly she roused, regaining consciousness. "Drak, what's going on? Are you feeling better?" "Stop avoiding my questions," she demanded. She pushed out of my arms and stood up. She wobbled on her feet. "There she is." She passed out. "Are you feeling better, honey?" The woman from earlier returned with a security guard. "Are you all right? Do you need to rest? I can help you back to the guard station, get someone to check you out." Kara gripped my arm. "I'm fine, really. It's just hot in here. I think once I have some water, I'll be fine. I'll escort you to the snack bar, get you something to drink. You probably need something a bit more than just water." "No, really, you don't need to," Kara said. Really I do. It's my job. We can't have patrons passing out on us. I need to make sure you're doing better, and have something to drink. I insist." "Kara, listen to the man," I said. "Enough of this banter." I swung her up into my arms. "Lead the way." "Drak, put me down this instant. You'll pull a groin muscle. You'll throw out your back." "I can walk." "Shush, Kara, MIA, do not yell, we are in a museum." "Drak." She growled my name through clenched teeth. Her rage was adorable. She seemed to give up after a few moments. Resigned to her fate. "Fine. Fine. We can go to the snack bar for a drink." I followed behind the security guard, who didn't seem to know what to do with us. "The cafe is right down this hall, why don't you get her a seat? I'll bring over some waters." I placed Kara at a table. She squirmed and adjusted her clothing before leveling a glare at me. "I can't believe you did that." People were staring. Of course they were staring, we are a beautiful couple. "Would you like something a bit more substantial than water?" Her little nose wrinkled up as she continued to glare at me. "Adorable." She shifted her gaze to the glass case near the register. "Do they have cheesecake?" I wouldn't say no to a piece of cheesecake. And I would buy her cheesecake, after all, she was in possession of my amulet, my heart.
Chapter 6. Kara. Everything was suddenly very much too much. And like a cherry on top of the whipped cream and sprinkles, Drak had carried me, with my extra curves and a body that a lot of men pretended didn't even exist, through multiple galleries before gently setting my ass in a chair. He didn't once grunt, and he wasn't even out of breath. It was bordering on the verge of unrealistic. He didn't even comment when I said I wanted a piece of cheesecake. He simply told me to stay put, and then he walked over to the counter. The man moved like a sinuous tiger, all long strides and hidden strength. I knew he knew exactly how to use that body to his advantage. After all, he was quite the convincing dancer. "Here you go, miss. Are you sure you're all right?" The security guard startled me and grabbed my attention away from staring at Drak's butt. "Yeah, I'm feeling much better, thank you." "You sure?" I nodded. "I'm sure." Something in me was trying to tell me Drak was not going to harm me, and that I needed to listen. When I looked back at Drak, his gaze seemed to bore into me as he returned to the table, a tray with 2 slices of cheesecake and something else in a bowl. He set the tray down, and I could see the bowl with sliced strawberries. "I didn't know if you wanted strawberries on your cheesecake, so I had them set aside for you." "Seriously? He brought me strawberries?" "I love strawberries," I gushed. My reaction was over the top. I didn't care. I was still processing how this beautiful man carried my ass, and now he brought me cheesecake with strawberries. "What is it you want from me?" I asked. He shook his head and looked startled. "What do you mean? Why did you show me that painting? Why are you being so nice to me?" He put his fork down and reached out for my hand. He began stroking the back of it with his thumb. A soft back-and-forth motion that felt oddly intimate. "I am being nice to you, because I like you. I thought you liked me as well." "I do like you, Drock. But I've never really felt such a strong mutual attraction with someone like this before," I confessed. He nodded. "So you don't trust it?" "I think I understand." I nodded. "But I do," he purred before taking a bite of cheesecake. My focus was on his mouth as he slid the fork with the creamy dessert past his lip. And what lips they were! Full and soft, and I wanted them doing whatever he was doing to the fork to do to me. Caressing, tasting, sliding. He licked his lower lip, followed by a subtle scraping of his teeth over the plump morsel of his mouth that was probably as sweet, if not better, than what he was eating. His lips spread into a grin, and then parted as his smile grew wider, exposing straight white teeth. That seemed a little pointier than normal. "You aren't some kind of vampire, are you?" I asked in a bit of a lust-filled haze. He was yummy, and I was starving. "And if I were?" I leaned forward, tilted my head to the side, and lifted my hair away from my neck. "What do you think? Is that an offer?" I don't think I could be any less subtle. We are in public, so I'd rather not get too explicit, but yes, that is an offer. My stomach flipped, and a riot of butterflies seemed to have been set free in my middle. The shock I felt at my own audacity didn't even register. Had I really just said that to him? His smile twisted into more of a smirk than a grin. He cut another bite of cheesecake, only this time he held it out to me. I leaned into it, wrapping my lips around the fork. I never let my gaze drop from his. I wanted him to know that I wanted my mouth on him the way it was on that fork. "You are a tempting woman, cara mia. But I do not want to rush such a sweet treat as this cake." Stabbing a sliced strawberry, he snapped his teeth over it. He was going to torture me, I was certain of it. "I will take you home, but first, talk to me." I completely forgot what words were. My body reacted to, "take you home." My breasts perked up with interest, and the heat between my thighs was suddenly embarrassingly sensual. I wanted to squirm and feel my body roll around. "You want me to talk dirty to you here?" I asked. His laugh made my skin want to sacrifice itself at his feet. I had it bad. "No, but I do look forward to hearing exactly what you want me to do with your body when I get you alone." For a moment my confidence waned, and I struggled to swallow down a lump in a very dry throat. "Tell me how you were wearing my amulet last night. You saw it in the painting. I will say it looks better against the skin of your breasts. It has been missing for centuries." "Centuries?" I might have laughed. "I thought you said you weren't a vampire." His eyes locked with mine. Somehow, his gaze sent a shiver down my spine and through my entire body. I turned my attention to the piece of cheesecake in front of me, that I had barely touched. I cut a sizable bite, stabbed a few slices of strawberry onto the fork, and shoved it all into my mouth. There had been nothing sexy about my bite. I needed time out to think. I was something much more powerful than a vampire. And then I was nothing more than an arrogant man. Slowly what was mine was stripped away, stolen, and eventually sold off simply so that I could survive. I nodded. "Okay, let's say I believe you. That painting is pretty convincing. But what makes you think my necklace is your amulet? They could just look similar." The man in the painting looked rich enough that what he was wearing had been a real ruby. My necklace is just a fancy piece of glass. Dratch's nostrils flared. His brow pulled together and his eyes grew dark. "Who told you what you have is fake? I could feel its energy last night. It is very much real." I let out a sigh. My mother had it appraised after her grandfather passed. The jeweler said it wasn't much more than high-quality costume jewelry, and he would take it off her hands for a few bucks. I put my fork down. Son of a bitch. He had been trying to rip my mom off. If that's a real ruby, it's worth everything. There is a dragon in the heart of the gem. Only a few can see it, but it flies as light enters the stone. I sat back and stared at him. The man in the painting had been beautiful and arrogant. Someone used to snapping his fingers and servants and lackeys would jump. He looked like a spoiled prince. But the man in front of me seemed like someone who took care of business himself. He didn't have flunkies and lackeys doing the hard work for him. Drak looked enough like the man in the painting, the red dragon, that he could easily be a direct descendant. And in some whacked-out world where immortals existed, he could be the same man. But immortals didn't exist. Are you telling me I went out partying with a couple of thousands of dollars worth of ruby around my neck? Don't forget the gold. I used to wear that to high school. I'd lose it and it always showed back up. It found its way back to you. It knew you were important. The way the words wrapped around his tongue really did things to me. His accent was more natural today, thicker. As if he wasn't trying so hard to sound like he was a local. Yeah, well, if it found its way back to me because I'm important, why didn't it find its way back to you if you're the rightful owner? He shrugged. I have my theories. You said your grandfather possessed the amulet prior to it belonging to you? I shook my head. Mom's grandfather. He brought it back with him from when he served in World War II. He called it a souvenir. But in reality, it was a little pillaging and thievery if you ask me. Do you think he's the one who stole it from you? I decided to humor Drak about his immortal status. I don't know why. I was perfectly willing to let him play vampire on my neck and prove me wrong, so why not? He shook his head. It was gone long before that nastiness, where it seemed like the entire world lost its collective mind. We may never know how your grandfather acquired it. He set his fork down and picked up my hand. But it found you, and you have found me. I pulled my hand back. You're only seducing me to get at the amulet, aren't you? Definitely not. You aren't wearing it now, and I cannot stop thinking about how soon before I can have your mouth wrapped around me. The temperature in the cafe skyrocketed, or I was suddenly very hot. It was like a hot flash. My entire body shivered with the onslaught of heat, and then I broke out in a full-body sweat. It wasn't particularly sexy. But Drak didn't seem to care. He reached out and trailed a drip of sweat down my neck. Are we done here? I blinked at him a few times, trying to wrap my head around his meaning. Glancing down at the desserts, I noticed I had barely touched mine. But I was done with the cheesecake. I wasn't done with him, and I was getting a strong vibe from him that he hadn't even begun with me. I managed to nod. I couldn't seem to get the words out. Fortunately, I didn't need to. I shall return with our coats. Don't run away while I'm gone, cara mia. When Drak returned, he eased me to my feet and helped me on with my coat. He kept his arm around me as he guided me away from the cafe and out of the museum. I was stunned silent as we reached his car and slid back into the low bucket seats. I watched as he drove with competence and speed. His face was a fierce concentration. His movements were tight, precise. He knew exactly how to drive a car like this. Maybe he had been driving it since it had been fresh off the factory floor. If he really was some kind of immortal around in the late Renaissance, then he could have bought this car back when it wasn't a classic. When did you buy this car? It was made in 1964. That didn't answer my question. When did you buy it? 1964. So, you really are some kind of immortal? That's almost believable, I confessed. I have no way to convince you. You have to believe me, have faith. You are very convincing. You could be very good at lying, trying to con me out of a very expensive piece of jewelry. Are you going to seduce me, and then steal my necklace after you leave me legless. He chuckled. We will both be legless by the time I am done with you. And no, I will not be sneaking out of bed to steal your jewelry. First of all, you are not wearing it today. And secondly, I am taking you to my home. I stopped asking him stupid questions at that point. The last thing I wanted was for him to change his mind on his plan of seducing me. I would just have to be diligent and aware when it came to the part where he would try to rob me of the ruby. In the meantime, I was going to play along with his story of being an immortal and allow him to rail me senseless. Chapter 7.
Drak. Drak, where are you taking me? I glanced next to me at Kara's lovely face as I guided the car up the drive. Her expression betrayed her concern and apprehension. The car's tires crunched over an accumulation of dead leaves as I drove up the drive. I hadn't raked or swept, hoping the winter rain and eventual snow would cover up the worst of it. The old place looked rather shoddy most of the year. You should see this in summer. Everything that is bleak and barren is a riot of greens and flowers. I guess I forgot what the old place can look like to someone who has never seen it before. My home was mostly hidden behind a thick wall of brambles and dormant vines. It did not appear to be the quaint manor home it had once been. It resembled something that looked as if it would sprout chicken legs and begin roaming around on its own in the deep woods. It's old, isn't it? She asked. Yes, but it does have indoor plumbing and heating, if that is your concern. I've been putting off getting air conditioning installed. The way the temperature has been climbing every year, I will have to figure out if I can sell something to cover the expenses. What do you mean, sell something off? Pulling under the portico, I stopped the car and turned off the engine. Originally to protect the members of the house from weather, while climbing in and out of carriages, it worked well as a carport. Would it surprise you that I am from old money and did not maintain my wealth very well? You did mention something like that at the museum. Why not take out a home equity loan, or put it on a credit card? I assume you own the house, why else would you be installing air conditioning? I opened the car door for her, and helped her to her feet. For a moment we stood close enough that our breaths mingled. The temptation to dip my head and taste her lips was so very strong. Please come inside. It's much more comfortable inside than it is outside. She followed me up the few steps to the porch, and then she stepped inside. Oh whoa! I didn't expect this. Kara took several more steps inside. Once in the middle of the entry, she turned in a slow circle, looking up and around. The entry to my home was lavish. I had spared no expense at making an impression. It was a small rotunda lined with columns and capped with a stained glass dome. The floor was a checkerboard of green and white marble tiles. This floor. Oh Drak, your home is gorgeous. Kara gushed. I had wanted to impress her. It was as if I knew she would be standing here one day, when I had built this place all so many years ago. This is simply the entry. May I take your coat? I stepped up to help her off with the heavy winter coat. You have an actual coat closet? I haven't seen one of those in years. They just don't build them into apartments. You are impressed by closet space? She nodded. Absolutely. Ask any woman what she wants and she'll tell you. Pockets in dresses and chocolate, I answered. Yes, and adequate closet space, she added. Can I ask, if you live in a house like this and drive a car like that, why are you an exotic male dancer? I laughed. That's easy. I like to eat. And it's easier than being a male escort. Kara stopped her constant turning and admiring the space to gape at me. You were a male escort. I have done many things, Kara Mia. I have a few marketable skills, but it seems that I can make more money from my body and my looks than I could working in construction. Which I have done plenty of times. And the life of a mercenary does not appeal to me. I rotate through careers as my financial needs wax and wane. Male escort, she repeated. Does it bother you that I was once a lover for hire? She cast her eyes to the side and bit her lower lip. It was adorable. I couldn't stop myself from walking up to her and caressing the side of her face. Her rejection would crush me. So you were a professional, she asked. How long ago? It's been many, many years. Decades. Why did you stop? A little smirk crossed her lips as her eyes met mine. It went out of fashion. So you moved on to more lucrative activities. I nodded. Were you any good? I laughed. I was the best. Oh, those are big words. I might need a hands-on demonstration. After all, you've been out of practice. How long ago did you say? Her fingers began a dance up and down my chest, toying with the buttons of my shirt. It's been such a very long time. I might have forgotten the finer details. You should let me judge, she said. I didn't stop the smile that crossed my lips. She had a spark of vivacity about her that I hadn't seen in a very long time. She reached her arms over my shoulders and began playing with my hair. Maybe I should check to see if you still know the basics. Her gaze kept returning to my mouth before darting up and meeting mine. Perhaps the lady would care to sample a kiss. I suggested. A kiss would be most appropriate. I don't know if she had planned on saying more. I slid my lips over hers at that point. She hummed into my mouth and opened for me like a blossom. She tasted sweet and perfect. I snaked my tongue against hers. Twining and sliding together, we consumed each other. My beast roared with a passion I hadn't experienced in centuries. I was so close to my heart. It felt as if she were the magic and it was not locked in some trinket that she currently owned.
Kara. I wasn't sure what was more stunning, Drac or his home. Okay, Drac. But his house didn't suck. It was like something out of a movie. At first I would have said a horror movie, but then that door opened, and I felt as if I went from a black and white movie to something in full glorious color. And then he started kissing me, and I didn't really care about how amazing his home was, because Drach's lips were on mine, and his fingers were on my face. And I tangled mine into his hair. Nothing else mattered. Nothing. He continued kissing me when he lifted me into his arms. I wasn't as shocked as I had been the first time, in the museum. Instead, the nerves in my insides rioted. This was the stuff romantic dreams were made of. I didn't want to wake up, if that's what all of this was, some kind of fever fantasy come to life. He continued to kiss and stroke my mouth with his lips and tongue. My body wanted so much more of his touch. Chapter 8.
Drac. Karamae, it's time. Time for what? I mumbled sleepily. Did we fall asleep? For a bit. I'm going to have to leave soon. I sat next to her. I hate to make you get up. But I have to go to work, and you would be stuck here. She groaned as she sat up. Are you kicking me out? I shook my head. Not at all, but you would be hard-pressed to get an Uber out here. And your car is back at the sushi place. And I have to go to work. But it's Christmas Eve, she grumbled. Let me up. You're right. I know. I'd much rather spend the rest of the evening with you, instead of dressing up like an elf and pretending to want to make love to any other woman. She placed her warm, comforting hand on my chest. As long as it's pretend. She leaned in and kissed me. I clutched her against my chest. I didn't think I would ever want to be without her again. She felt like someone I had been missing, and not someone I had just met. Can I see you tomorrow? I begged. You don't have Christmas plans? I shook my head. Christmas stopped having meaning for me many, many decades ago. Now it is simply a day free from work. I am sorry, I forget that other people have families and friends they spend the day with. I might be able to get out of my plans. You'd leave your family. She shook her head. Family isn't close, not this year. What were you thinking? I shook my head, uncertain of what I wanted other than to be near Kara. We could dress up, you could wear the amulet, and we could go out for dinner. Restaurants are open on Christmas these days. She stopped moving. She had her dress and her bra in her hands, and she stared at me. Seriously? You just want me to wear the necklace, don't you? Her tone was bitter. What did I say, Kara? MIA? Her mouth twisted before her jaw dropped open. I can't believe that I fell for you there for a minute. But you really are only interested in that necklace. Unbelievable. I shook my head and reached out for her. No, don't wear it. Forget I said anything about it. I just want you. Sure you do. She pulled her clothes on in harsh jerking motions. Tomorrow you'll say no necklace, but then you'll keep asking me until I show up, or I finally invite you to my place, and as soon as you get your hands on that ruby, I'll never see you again. That's not true, Kara. No, I want you. Well, I want you to take me back to my car. She shoved her feet into her boots and stormed out of my bedroom. I followed, uncertain how to fix the rift that had formed so unexpectedly between us. She wouldn't look at me the entire drive back to the sushi place. And when I pulled over for her to get out, she flinched away from me when I reached out to touch her, to kiss her. Something inside me broke. I was going to be lost without her near.
Chapter 9. Kara. I sat with a thump. The sofa was a bit lower than expected, and I dropped the last few inches. The snaps on my shirt burst open low on my belly and on my boobs. I quickly scanned the room to make sure no one had witnessed that. I was alone in the living room. Figures. This was supposed to be a party for those of us who didn't want or have family to spend today with, and I was alone. Well, at least I hadn't popped buttons off the front of my shirt. Been there, done that. I fastened the snaps. I forgot that I needed to be a little more ladylike when wearing more form-fitting clothes. I had felt cute when I got dressed. Now I just felt like a phony. And my Christmas was sucking. Drock hadn't seduced me for me. He wanted the necklace. I was such a fool. No, I wasn't a fool, and he hadn't played me. I knew exactly what I was getting into, and I hadn't cared. At least I thought I'd be able to not care when this, not unexpected turn of events happened. Damn it. I cared. I cared far too much. But I wasn't going to cry and wallow in a pity party. It was Christmas, I was surrounded by new friends, and I felt abandoned. I refused to cry, so I started to get angry with myself instead. I was being dumb. Lifting the necklace Drock had been so interested in, I studied it. Light refracted and danced through the facets of the large ruby. It almost looked like a large bird or winged beast flapped its wings as I tilted it back and forth. Not just any beast, and certainly no bird. It's a dragon, Kara. How would Drock know there was a dragon in my necklace if he hadn't been intimately familiar with it? I certainly had never noticed the beast within. Flipping it over, I squinted and brought the piece up closer to my eyes. I focused on the faceting, as if I could tell if this was hand-cut or pressed in a mold. It looked impressive no matter how it had been made. "Whatcha doin'?" Kelly dropped onto the couch next to me. "Do you think this could be real?" I held up the pendant. Kelly took it and held the stone up to the light. She shrugged. "There aren't any maker's marks on it." "It could be. The gold is almost too yellow to be real. You know who might know Olive?" "Is she a jeweler?" I had only met Olive that afternoon, in a mass introduction of people. I hadn't said much more than hello to her. "No, but she is always dripping in jewelry," Kelly pointed out. Wearing jewelry and knowing about jewelry are two different things. Kelly was on her feet, my necklace in her hands. She headed out toward the other room, where more people were gathered. I scrambled to my feet after her. I caught up as she handed my necklace to the beautiful woman, who was dripping in traditional Indian jewelry. She was shaking her head and laughing. She lifted one of her necklaces and held the chain next to the chunky filigree on my necklace. See, the color is the same. I think the gold might be real. It's like Americans don't actually like the color of real gold. The stuff they sell here is always white gold or rosé gold. Gold is yellow, it's not pink. But I don't know anything about stones. It's very pretty. Olive held the necklace back to Kelly. I intercepted it. Sorry about that. Someone suggested the stone might be real. I had been told it was a high-quality fake. You need a jeweler, Olive suggested. A jeweler told my mom it wasn't worth much, and the more I think about it, I wonder if he had been trying to rip my mom off. I slipped it back over my neck. It's supposed to be old. I almost wonder if I should take it to an antique specialist. Let me see it, a man said. He stepped next to Olive and held his hand out expectantly. You know antiques? Kelly asked. I lifted the necklace over my head again and handed it over. Maybe I was being stupid, letting everyone handle my necklace, but curiosity had me by the throat. He held the pendant with one hand as he fished something from his pocket. A moment later, he was adjusting a mini telescope to his eye. What's that? I asked. I was laughing too much at the absurdity to get the rest of my question out. It's a loop, he explained. Oh, like one of those things jewelers use, Kelly proclaimed. I see Connor has gotten his hands on a rock, another man said, joining our little group. This is my partner Drew, Olive introduced the new guy. I didn't remember him from when I was first introduced around. I didn't remember Connor either. Connor is my brother, Drew continued the introduction. And an avid rockhound. I'm a geologist, Connor said. His attention was on my necklace. So is it real or glass? Kelly managed to ask what I was thinking. The gold is real enough. Very high carat too. See how it's all dinged up. It's soft. He held out the pendant and pointed to an area that was dented from where I dropped it years ago. I thought it got beat up because it's cheap, I confessed. My stomach clenched. It was real, it was old, Renaissance old. What about the ruby? Kelly asked. I was glad she was able to keep asking questions. I was getting lost in my head. All I could do was picture that portrait, and my necklace, Dratch's amulet against his chest. Drac with his long black curls and those deep-set eyes dressed in red velvet. The red dragon. Oh yes, that's real. It was hand-cut too. Whoever told you this is glass is an idiot, Connor said. Or a thief, I muttered. Thank you. Connor handed the necklace back. It's real, but it's not very clear. I mean, as far as specimens go, it's not one I would have set in all that gold. I wrapped my fingers around it, happy to have it back in my hands. What do you mean? Inclusions? Dark spots, don't get me wrong, the ruby is impressive, especially at that size. But it's not like the Hope Diamond or the Koh-i-Noor. Koh-i-Noor? Olive asked. Big diamond, part of the crown jewels, Connor explained. He started to ramble on about other gemstones. As the conversation drifted away from my necklace, I pretended to pay attention. But I kept returning to how Drac could have known that my necklace held inclusions that looked like a flying dragon. Suddenly it all clicked into place. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed Kelly's elbow to get her attention. You okay, Kara? I need to go. You have a Merry Christmas. Thanks for bringing me here today. Tell your friends that I really appreciate being included. I gave her a quick hug. I'll call you. I ran. More like I hurried. I didn't want to look like I was running, but my heart pounded and my breath was hard and short like I was. Once I collected my coat and got outside, I did run. I put my car into gear and laughed as the snow that had been threatening us for days finally started falling. I drove too fast as the snow began to stick to the street. I don't know how I remembered the directions, but I pulled in behind Dratch's car, relieved to see that he was at home. Hurling myself out of the car, I launched myself at his door, banging on it, demanding his attention. Drock? I cried his name when he didn't answer immediately. The adrenaline surging through my body evaporated, and I was left weak and desperate. I fell against the door and slid to my knees with my hand against the smooth wood. Drock, answer the door. This time, I let myself cry. I continued to knock, barely with enough force for my knuckles to make sound. The door opened, and my support fell away. I sprawled on the floor, half in and half out of Dratch's home. Cara Mia, what are you doing here? His arms were strong as he lifted me to my feet. And then he continued to lift me, until he was carrying me across the tiled entry and into a sitting room. There was a crackling fire and a large screen TV. Drock set me down on a large velvet sofa. I couldn't help but notice how soft the upholstery was. He didn't sit on hard cold leather, no, he liked plush. I thought you were never going to speak to me again. Why are you here? He towered over me. As soon as our eyes met, he was on his knees in front of me. I'm sorry. I fumbled with my coat and scarf. I pulled the necklace off and put it in his hands. Cara? What are you doing? He just held the piece in his open palm. How did you know my necklace held a dragon? How? Because this was yours. My great-grandfather somehow stole it from whoever had gotten it, after it was stolen from you. I'm making reparations, Drock. It's yours. It always has been. I'm sorry it took me so long to believe you. You saw the dragon? He sat back on his heels. The ruby still in his hand. If I didn't know better, he looked like he was in shock. His skin paled and his eyes were wide. It was as if he couldn't believe I was doing this stupid thing, handing over a small fortune in jewelry. I did. It's in there and it flies. Do you want to see my dragon? He asked in slow, precise words. I nodded, thinking he was going to hold the ruby up to the light again.
Drock. She saw the dragon. She was meant to be mine. Fate had given my amulet to her, so that she would find me. She was my mate, my life. Cara. It was almost difficult to speak. She was here, she came back to me. I finally closed my hand around the heart, feeling its magic burn through my veins. I crushed her to my chest. I claimed her lips with mine. She melted against me, she was where she belonged, with me. Reluctantly, I ended the kiss that seared into my very being. I desired nothing more than to kiss her forever. I wanted to leave her breathless with need. I wanted to wake to her sleepy smile for the rest of my life. And she saw the dragon in the stone. She would be with me through time. Mate. Come. I pulled her to her feet and led her outside. Drock, it's cold, you need a coat. I shook my head. I won't, but you should button up. I fastened her buttons and wrapped her scarf securely over her head and around her neck. I stepped away, pulling the sweater I wore off, casting it aside. The air was sharp, but I wouldn't notice it for long. Don't be afraid, I said. She shook her head and looked confused. I'm not afraid of you, Drock. But you need to put your shirt back on. Remember that. You are not afraid of me. I stepped away. I removed the chain she had worn my amulet on and cast it at my feet. The heart of the dragon. I hadn't felt its magic in centuries. My gut clenched in a moment of fear that the magic had forgotten me after all this time. Closing my eyes, I placed the amulet against the center of my chest. It burned. Clenching my teeth, I grimaced and hissed at the pain. Tendrils of magic reached out of the amulet and into my body. My skin parted and embraced the amulet. Power surged through me. I reached out and wings stretched from my back, unfurling toward the sky. The fragile skin of my human form retracted and scales thick armor rippled over me, and my limbs grew muscle and sinew. Cara gasped. I opened my eyes. The difference in how I saw her now made it seem like I had been blind for my entire life. I could see the magic of the dragon flow through her like blood coursing through arteries and veins. She glowed with her own magic. Magic that combined with mine would sustain her for multiple lifetimes and beyond. I could see the starburst on her shoulder where I had marked her. I huffed a laugh. The sound was a rumble of thunder. She took a step back. No, Kara, Mia, you see me. You have always seen me. I couldn't form words with the long throat I now had, but I could give her the words with my thoughts. Drak. Is that really you? Yes, my love. You have returned my heart, the source of my power. See. I pointed with a talon, how the amulet mounted into my chest. I knew it glowed a bright red against my darker scales. The red dragon. It wasn't just some kind of warlord title, was it? Holy shit, Drak, you're beautiful. She took a step forward, her hand reaching out as if she were irresistibly drawn to me. She wasn't afraid, but there was a nervous shiver about her.
Chapter 10. Kara. It was hard to fathom what I was actually seeing. Drak was a dragon, a real-life dragon. Someone must have slipped me something at that party, because I could not be seeing what I was seeing. He was massive. His head was easily as long as I was tall, and I wasn't exactly short for a woman. He had rows of sharp teeth and tusks that protruded beyond his lips. And he was red. Ruby red, with a glow that leaned toward the deep color of thick blood. The gem in his chest pulsed with light. It throbbed as if in time with a strong, slow heartbeat. Heart of the dragon. It all made sense. But it couldn't. How? How was the crazy hot stripper some kind of immortal dragon, and why was I just standing here gaping up at him? I should run. I should slap myself to wake up. Do you want to go for a ride? His words reverberated through my skull like bone conduction headphones. It was his voice, that soft hint of sexy accent, only big and all-encompassing. I took a tentative step forward and nodded. Slowly, a taloned claw reached out for me. I flinched. Kara Mia, I will not hurt you. But I must hold you somehow. I laughed. I thought I'd ride on your back, like in the fantasy novels. I kept laughing. It wasn't funny, but I couldn't help myself. They use saddles in those books. You know what I'm talking about? Of course I am the red dragon, and I have missed myself. Those books reminded me of why I continued on. They remind me of what I once was. I will not harm you, but I must hold you until we can figure out a saddle. Talons long, thick and black wrapped around me. They were not sharp, but there was a serrated edge that, combined with the power I could feel in his muscles, would shred whatever he went after with them. He could easily pierce me. He would have been able to rip into another dragon. As he wrapped me in his fist, I couldn't help but notice how it was like a cage, closing around me. I grabbed on at the base of one knuckle and squeezed. A scream escaped my lips when he jumped. So caught up in my own trepidation, I hadn't paid attention to his actions and missed that he had coiled to spring. My stomach stayed on the ground as he soared into the night sky. Are you okay? I have you. Startled, not scared. I had to yell over the rushing of the wind. He kept going up and up into the night. The lights below illuminated the city in bright colors and glaring harsh commercialism. Maybe if he flew over a small town, I would get to see the charm of Christmas lights. The air was cold, and grew colder as he flew through a cloud. It wasn't soft and fluffy, it felt wet and prickled with ice. My coat barely warded off the chill. Suddenly he burst out of the clouds and into still clarity. Oh wow! I had never seen so many stars. It felt as if we were close enough to touch them. The clouds below looked solid, and if he fell back, we would bounce as if on a thick feather bed. I saw a plane in the distance, and the world at this elevation was quiet and empty. I felt dizzy with the lack of breathable air. But Drak was solid and steady. His body rose and dipped, as if he were riding waves as his wings beat to keep us airborne. No wonder he wanted the necklace. Without, he was just another man working to keep his home, and making it through the years, week by week. With it, well, I'm sure that it changed everything for him. And not just this whole beautiful dragon form he could now take on. I knew his attraction had to be triggered by something. I was back to feeling like a fool, because even though I knew, I still let him seduce me. Funny, I thought he was out to steal the necklace for money. This was much more valuable than money. This made sense. He would have seduced anyone to get back his heart. I know I would have. I found it difficult to focus, and I started to lose the grip I had on him. He wouldn't let me fall, but in truth I already had. The damage was done. I slipped into darkness. Kara Mia, come back to me. Dratch's voice surrounded me. He wasn't in my head, just very close and loud. I cracked open my eyes, pressing my palm to my forehead. What happened? I think I had a crazy dream. He looked worried. Human, very human, but concern knitted his brow together. Then I noticed the ruby still mounted against his chest. I groaned. That hadn't been a dream. You passed out. I kept you up where the air is thin for far too long. I am sorry. Can you ever forgive me? I groaned again and pushed out of his arms. It hurt too much to be close to him, knowing I had let myself be his sucker. I had returned the ruby my great-grandfather had stolen. Reparations to the original owner had been made. I should feel good about that. But I didn't. I didn't care about the stupid necklace. I had wanted him to want me. And I had convinced myself that for a moment, a few hours, he had. I knew better. On my own feet, I staggered toward my car. It wasn't as fancy as his Jaguar, but I owned it. And I probably would drive it for as long as I could keep it running. I understood why he kept the car he had. Kara, where are you going? I'm going home, Drac. You got what you wanted from me. It's rightfully yours. You don't have to pretend to like me to get it back. He grabbed my arm and spun me to face him. I wobbled, and he gripped my upper arms. I refused to look at him, keeping my gaze down. Not the smartest plan, since he was so close. I ended up staring at his abs. His perfectly defined abs, with just the right amount of hair trailing down away from his belly button into his jeans. Magic was weird. He was dressed again. Maybe I had been unconscious for longer than I realized. What are you talking about? His hands tightened on my arms. I thought he might start shaking me. Merry Christmas, Drac. Consider it a present if you have to. Let me go now, please. He let go, but he didn't step out of my way. His arms fell to his sides as if they weighed too much. Kara, my love, you aren't leaving me. You can't. You don't have to call me that. I know you were only after the ruby. You never really wanted me, did you? I was simply between you and what you had lost. Don't say that. Don't think that. Kara Mia, stay. I put my hand on his chest and pushed. He was firm and unmovable. His fingers skimmed over my jaw, and I wanted to melt. He lifted my face until our eyes met. Stay, he said again. He placed his hand over the ruby, and with a wince it was free from its place on his chest. He picked up my hand and placed the amulet in my palm. The skin of his chest rippled and healed, back to flawless pecs before my eyes. What are you doing? I gave you the ruby. It's rightfully yours. I tried to press the piece of jewelry back into his hands. He folded his hands over mine. This is the heart of the dragon. You gave me back my life. But it would be no life without you. You keep my heart safe. You hold my heart, Kara. If keeping the amulet means I lose you, then I don't want it. Take it back and instead give me your affections. Be my love. I sobbed at his words. He wanted me. I was wrong, so beautifully wrong. I have lived hundreds of years, longing to return to my form. You have given me that gift, but I will give it all up if you only stay. I sniffed. Are you saying what I think you're saying? He nodded, stepped in close, and brushed hair from my brow before grazing his thumb over my cheek, dashing away the tears that I couldn't stop. With you, I have found my heart, my true heart, the one that wants to love you for as long as you will allow me. I will miss the amulet, but I have lived centuries without it. I do not know if I will be able to live even a day without you. Please, I must have you, you are far more precious to me. His words were like tiny daggers, both pain and pleasure. You would give up your wings, your ability to shift into your true form for me? I asked. I was being dense, but it made no sense at all. Why me? Yes, that is what I am saying. I took his hand and placed the amulet against his palm. You don't have to give anything up. I love you. I thought you only pretended to woo me for the ruby. His lips brushed against mine. The kiss was tender and full of promise. He skimmed his thumb over my lips when he was done. I saw into your soul, and knew that you would be the one to complete me. The nerves in my stomach were dancing, happy, excited. My entire body wanted to scream, yes. I love you, cara mia, you are the only gift I could ask for. Snow started to fall in thick clumps around us. This Christmas ended up being amazing. I grabbed his wrist and started to drag him back toward the house. We need to get you inside before you catch a chill. With a shout of jubilee, Drock swung me up into his arms and carried me back to the house. I have a very warm blanket in my room, will you join me under it? I know exactly the one, and yes, I would like that. I would like that a lot.
Thank you for listening to this edited version of Heart of the Dragon. Copyright Lulu M. Sylvian and Moontan Press. To listen to the full audiobook version, please follow the link in this video's description. You will also find a link to other ebooks and audiobooks by Lulu M. Sylvian. Like and subscribe to this channel to get updates and notification for when additional romance audiobooks from Lulu M. Sylvian are posted.